Hey, what's up? This is Coyote. Welcome back to another episode of Nitro Ride. This one's going to be a little bit against the grain in two different ways. The first one being that I have a fucking different co-pilot with me. Hey, say hello.
Howdy, folks. You can call me Easy, unless, of course, you're a pretty little lady or an attractive gentleman, in which case you can call me whatever you damn well please. I do intend to use this podcast my own personal Match.com. Tinder just ain't doing it these days with its emphasis on hookup culture.
Yeah, he's looking for something with some depth, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me. Yeah.
Any hole is a goal, as my mammy used to say.
And also, that's right. That's the other thing you have to do. That's the only thing you have to do. You have to keep.
It is my God-given responsibility to make sure this microphone do not fall over. Thank you very much for telling me after the fact.
Typically on Nitro Ride, we delve into some more of the like abstract topics. Like we talk about love and family, or we'll talk about leading with compassion, or whatever the other topics that we've hammered out so far have been. But that's the other way that this episode is going to be a little bit different. We are talking about Fallout New Vegas. So I fucking, you know what, man? I'm 23 and I'm the target demographic for most video games
and podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Almost.
You're in your niche.
Almost mid-20s and a dude. That's it. I am built to consume both podcasts and fucking video games. But while some of the shit that Cosmos and I have talked about in different episodes have really helped to form who I am as a person, they've been super pinnacle in my creation and in my upbringing. Like Fallout New Vegas is that too. Fallout New Vegas is fucking hella important to me. It came to me in a super developmental period in my life, and on top of that, when I really started leaning into it, it was after I had made these pretty shitty decisions back in high school. Do you know when New Vegas came out? Was it 2009 or something?
That sounds correct. I certainly didn't do my homework today.
I didn't either.
There's a little post-it note up on my computer telling me to do just that, and I absolutely didn't do the thing.
Oh, damn it. The only homework that I've actually done is that I know that New Vegas was made in 18 months. That's all that I have.
Which seems criminal and incredible at the same time.
Yeah, it eliminates so many excuses that so many fucking developers and companies have. It's we only had 3 years to make this game. Granted, New Vegas reused a whole bunch of assets, and so they had a lot of time that they got to save on their hands.
Yeah, it's certainly choppy waters, and I do think that given a little bit more time, it would have been a much more complete project.
Oh yeah.
There's all sorts of little tidbits here and there, like the airfield. Dispatched Camp Searchlight.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing fucking there. I've certainly spent half an hour trying to dig around trying to find whatever quest is associated with it.
And I think depending on what what are the fucking traits, right? That's Wild Wasteland is in. If you pick Wild Wasteland, I think in Camp Searchlight you get the holy hand grenades. Is that right? I don't remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. But I also there's a third way this fucking episode differs from all the other ones, because I actually have fucking talking points today. I did some semblance of
homework,
preparation.
Ladies and gents.
Yeah.
But I think before we get into your talking points, I do want to touch back on a thing that you mentioned, it being developmental in ways that other forms of media may not.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's something intrinsic specifically to video games, and more so intrinsic to this one. Specifically that it's sort of a playground for making choices that do tangibly affect people. And a playground in that these choices that you make that affect people don't, you won't actually kill anybody.
I was gonna say, it's a funny, it's a very low bar for a power fantasy, but still it's like one of the best ones that you can get your hands on. Like your choices actually affect your surroundings.
Absolutely.
And the the near future.
And I think that there's this misconception around the idea of power fantasy that it has to do with having the most power, and like you could take something like the Sims, where it's click of a button you can decide whether someone has a little bit of the does the horizontal tango or dies in a
pelvic pinochle.
Yeah. Or dies in a fire in a room, in a 4x4 room with no windows or doors. Exactly.
Yeah. Put them in a pool and remove the ladder, kind of situation.
Exactly. Oh, it's drowning from ladderless pools is really the fourth leading cause of death in America.
Yeah, and that's the opposite of it. I guess that's the very high bar for a power fantasy, because you're literally God in the fucking Sims.
Precisely, but being God removes the stakes. Like that's the point that I wanted to get to. Being one with the people that your actions are helping or harming, I think is important and the closest to real life that you're liable to get.
Yeah.
And I think the ability to make choices and then perhaps go back once you've thought about the weight of those choices and make them again is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. And the fact that it came to me at this, I don't want to fucking make a mountain out of a molehill, but the fact that I was able to make decisions that seriously changed the minds and of the people, the NPCs around me in New Vegas. I don't know, the fact that came to me during a period wherein all the decisions I were making were totally wrong. Maybe that plays a part into why it's such a fucking important game for me. But I've sunk at this point thousands of hours in different playthroughs, and it's something that I always fucking come back to. It is my absolutely, without a question, my favorite video game of all time, and I think that I would make an argument that it is the best video game created. Yeah, I don't know about it's not necessarily the most groundbreaking. Excuse me. Because right at the front, it borrows all these assets from Fallout 3, and a lot of everything on display in New Vegas. I can't think of a single mechanic that hasn't been done before, like through some strange iteration, like whether it's exactly the same format or not. Did any come to the front?
Well, in some ways, but I do think that what you're saying is really an argument for how lasting the legacy and how good the game is.
Yeah.
You're right. It doesn't do much that is at first glance particularly groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And I think that's really just a testament to the writing itself and how important that is to a game above something like high realism or the graphical content or even the gameplay if we're being completely honest.
That was one of the points, and I mean we're already kind of starting to sink our teeth into what I'm fucking talking about New Vegas on the whole, and so maybe to give a little bit longer of a preamble, it's just a very important game. It's very important to both of us, and
absolutely,
and as is theater, and creating and performing for people.
Absolutely.
And you fucking told me that when I pitched you coming out to do this, is that this is going to be the most natural project that either of us have ever participated in.
Least forced.
Yeah.
Podcast recording.
Seriously, in history. And that's what this is. But don't ever put this show to a box, man. We're gonna be doing all kinds of really weird shit, probably.
And I'm excited to see and or be a part of it.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I'm hoping that we could have you on a couple different ones, easy. But you just said we just started talking about like the central gameplay loop, and so what that is, what I've heard it described as, is like if you can stretch 10 seconds of really good riveting gameplay into 100 hours of a video game. You can create a video game around a basic 10-second loop, and you see that time and time again, even with games that don't have very many mechanics like on display, like Thumper. You ever play Thumper? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't think I have played Thumper.
Just rhythm-based games on the whole.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That it's. I mean, there's no depth to a rhythm-based game,
Thing that came to mind for me was Tetris. It's the same thing. Block falls,
Yeah.
you put it in place, another block falls.
Exactly.
That's the loop. And
it's a glorified QTE, for which I mean, if you really want to get into it, that's all a video game could be. A very, very glorified QuickTime event. But yeah, the central 10-minute or the central 10-second loop of New Vegas isn't very good in my opinion.
No, absolutely, and see, that's the thing. They're borrowing it from a game that's already somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
In a game that even itself wasn't particularly groundbreaking for its time. And so it's not the core gameplay loop.
Yeah.
It's shoot things and shit. They even have a button you can press in the game if you don't want to shoot things.
Yeah.
It'll automatically do it for you.
That's exactly. That's so funny because there's another fucking in Fallout 3. That was the thing that was groundbreaking. That's the only mechanic that that game had introduced into this fucking environment of video games that was new, and the only reason why it's there is because the gunplay is so fucking garbage. Imagine playing a gunplay based game like Call of Duty, and you could press a button wherein it's just breaking it down into hardline numbers. You are guaranteed to shoot this person in the head at the press of one button.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how removed, what you would destroy the game? Why do people play that fucking game? Any kind of shooter if you need to introduce that mechanic in order to make it fun.
Yeah, and yet I think it serves as a vehicle for the writing.
Yeah.
Because it stretches out. It's used sort of artificially to pad out the writing of the game.
Yeah.
You have your point A of world building and your point B of decision making.
Yeah.
And then if it's just bam, 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 bam all the way to the end, then you're reading a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
there's no participation. If it's just
exactly. So if you make it so, even though you have this game shoots for you mechanic, you can't surpass every obstacle this way, and you have to find creative solutions to get around it. I think there's a very central point to to developing the geopolitical climate of the game, where there's a group of raiders who are I'm talking about Boulder City. They're in they're holed up in an old convenience store and surrounded by folks with who are part of the New California Republic, sort of a reimagination of the United States government. And those folks are just bristling with weapons, ready to kill these folks, but they have some hostages, so it's a whole situation. And I think the most interesting way to deal with that is not by killing one side or the other, but going in and playing the admittedly difficult role of negotiator to try to find a solution where everyone walks away intact.
Right. Yeah.
And even this, and even getting to this solution creates more problems. The brass higher up is upset that you let some criminals walk.
Yeah.
But it's engaging. The times when you aren't actively pulling a trigger on someone are the ones that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that plays. That's like a clean transition into one of the first things that I really want to talk about. That is that realism does not equate immersion, because what that is like layers of depth, right? Like that's not being able.
Surely.
Obviously, giving the player more than one solution to a problem, and usually when gamers hear that, it's like you're going to take a stealth approach, or you're going to use loud guns. That's like,
how are you gonna kill them?
Yeah, that's exactly how are you going to kill them is what play your way means in most contexts. But that's one of the beautiful things about New Vegas, is that it has so many different systems at play. It has the politics and the karma, and then your own like inherent want to become a very powerful character. And so, you have the option as to whether you like Euclid Sea Finder. That's an example. So and that's a fucking Helios. The whole Helios One Quest line is great. By the way, if you're not somebody who's played New Vegas, you're probably not going to follow along with a lot of what we're going to talk about in this episode.
I was a little curious about how much context we were
going to provide
give.
first. Yeah. So it's. I mean, New Vegas is. I don't even want to spend a whole bunch of time describing what it is. Well, I guess that's what we're going to be doing. But I don't want to give people a whole, just like hours of pretext as to what the game is. Instead, I want to like really sink our teeth into it and like digest it and break it apart.
Certainly.
And so, if you haven't had the opportunity, go fucking play New Vegas. Go just break away a whole week. It looks like shit. I know it looks like shit, but if you're playing on PC, which I think you have to be at this point, otherwise you have like an Xbox 360 and who the fuck
of a game that is absolutely out of production.
Yeah, and so get it on PC. I'm sure it's like 80 goddamn cents most days on Steam, and it'll play on the most garbage computer because it came out in 2000, and you can get mods that make the game prettier if it's that unbearable and it really might be to somebody who's new to it. But
absolutely, and as a quick sidebar to that effect, they're actually building. There are a couple projects to rebuild New Vegas.
That's right.
Into Fallout 4.
Yeah.
A much prettier, worse designed game.
Yep. Yeah. I hope that they can bring a lot of the same mechanics into that as well, because it does have Fallout 4. I do think has very good gunplay.
It is absolutely an improvement. They even changed the shoots for you mechanics, so it's has a little more stakes to it.
Yeah, exactly. The gunplay's better. Oh, people actually want to shoot things. Oh, well, I guess we don't have to have a fucking game shoots for you setting. But yeah, there's your fucking pretext, context, fucking listeners. Go play it, and then bring the video back up. But yeah, so there's a Helios One Quest, and in that, the NCR, which is this like fucking, it's like almost like satirical take on the American government as the whole. It's like it's completely overwhelmed with bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's like mainly critiqued for in game, because it takes forever to get anything done, and they constantly get spread way too thin because they're trying to just like consume so much territory, and the only time they take real action is when people start to desert, which is, I feel like that's all pretty good commentary on the U.S.
Yeah, I think that's. I have some pretty important sidebars here. I can squeeze them in later if you like.
Yo, get after it, man.
So I think that New Vegas kind of fails as a vehicle for satire in this particular, stadium of these major political factions.
Yeah,
and that's specifically because each of these groups is designed kind of as a satire of an existing extant force in the American political coliseum, if you will, and each one of those stand-ins really appeals to the people who it's attempting to satire.
Ooh.
I think that the NCR is very emblematic of the sort of, it's almost like neoliberal centrist kind of politics.
Okay,
like
okay.
it's very much like we have to get everyone voting, and because it all is part of our democratic process, but really the people who have more power are the elite, and the ones who are making these big government contracts, like Alice McLafferty and the caravan companies. Like those are the people who really demonstrably have sway over what the folks in high up in the NCR are doing. And yet, the people who are politically leaning that way in real life that I've seen align themselves with the NCR. Those are the sorts of people who, on their first playthrough, go that way. On the other side of that coin, I think that Caesar's Legion, which is a bunch of fucking, ancient Roman cosplaying fascists.
LARPers.
Yeah, there we go. A bunch of LARPers that are a little too into the killing, raping, and enslaving. It's very. They have a male supremacist society that's predicated on the enslavement of whoever they deem as profligate people. And I think that it's very similarly political to the sort of extremist far right that we see not just in America but globally. That the very nationalist and violence oriented kind of group. And if you dip your toes into the brackish waters of 4chan, you will see
dangerous territory. Please have some adult supervision present.
Turn on your net nanny. And there are a lot of people who seriously tout the Caesar's Legion as championing these ideas of Hegelian dialectics and yada yada. It's the people that this was made to satire.
You know so many big words.
Listen, I played the game. I learned these fucking words. I pulled them out of the goddamn game.
Go ahead.
Play the fucking game.
Play the fuck.
The people that it was made to satire are the people that it appeals to. And I think that it's a failing of the satire it was trying to do. I think it's very effective in other ways, but it was absolutely made as a satire and not viewed that way by the people who consume it.
I think is that because all of the factions that you're able to side with are like successful to a point? Because I remember, so in Caesar's camp, there is a traitor, and he says that he loves trading in Caesar's Legion because it's so much safer than like passing through NCR lands or going through places that are just completely independent, because while they fucking enslave people and they perform a lot of murder, and they put people on crosses and burn some of the most well-written characters and then throw them into the Grand Canyon, they do bring a lot of security to the wasteland. And so because of that, like, they are in the when it comes to like making the wasteland a safer place, in a sense you can say that that's what they're doing. Like you can agree with with their end result when it comes to just somebody who is relatively independent or is a part of one of the tribes that they haven't completely integrated into the Legion. Like, that's what they're exposed to. And so that's one of the benefits of the Legion. And it talks about that. I watched a commentary video that was about like having good karma, but siding with the Legion. And that's the argument, is that if you're wanting to play as somebody with good karma, and whether you decide to side with the Legion or with the NCR, you are striving to change their systems. Even in the NCR, which is seen, at least at first glance, as the typical, like, moral solution. I feel like that's what most people, especially me, because I was like fucking 1 year old when this game came out. I didn't understand, a lot of different shit. And so I saw, like, NCR, if they're the obvious rival, if they're the strongest, like, most opposing rival of the, like, most obviously immoral faction, then they must be the good guys,
Absolutely.
So that's why I ended up siding with NCR in my very first playthrough, back when I was a little fucking baby. I didn't know anything. But yeah, so that's, I mean, at the very least, that's an argument for siding with the Legion.
Yeah, and I see that. At the same time, I think that, like, it's and people who are good people in real life, who fall into this kind of violent, kind of reactionary place of being of saying, like, I want to bring some order to the world.
Yeah.
And these people, these I don't know, these anarchists or whatever are causing these problems, and I want an orderly world. Like, well, fuck it, stove their heads in, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's the ability of that group to call other people, like, call whoever they want. Yeah. A troublemaker, an upstart. Like, that's where the danger comes in. I
see what you're saying.
Like, call whoever you want a profligate. I'm sure there's a town that you walk into near the beginning of the game that's been totally bowled over by the Legion. People up on crosses, roasting on piles of burning tires, and like, surely not everyone in this town was a rapist and murderer to begin with. Yeah. And furthermore, does that make it okay for them to be killed by other rapists and murderers? Like, where do you draw the line there? Yeah. And I can see how you could pull the idea that you're making the world a better place out of that. Yeah. But I think that lacks nuance. And I sort of roping back to that earlier point, I think that's why the folks this was meant to, like, emblemize and ended up embracing it. Yeah. See, when my first playthrough, I was thinking about siding with the NCR, and I did most of the NCR quests. Yeah. And I ended up thinking the phrase, those who would sacrifice freedom for security deserve neither. I'm sure I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And so what I ended up doing is I went with Mr. House, who is a force of capitalism and commerce. I think at that point I politically identified myself as a libertarian. That's what Mr. House, that's like what that character is, like, lampooning, in my opinion, is just like libertarians and absolutely the whole fucking, he's as obsessed with brow sweat as fucking Andrew Ryan is in the first BioShock game. Absolutely, it's very about, like, anything is okay if it's compensated and capitally, and I don't know, that seemed. I remember getting to the end and it talked about just how cold and heartless the robotically enforced streets of New Vegas were. Right. And that was just something that stuck with me to this day. I still remember the slide.
Did you feel, like, kind of betrayed by that?
I did, because that wasn't it was the future that I assisted in creating, but it wasn't the one that I wanted for people. And I wonder,
do you think that is a success or a failure on the developer's behalf? Like,
I think it's a success.
You think so?
I absolutely.
That you can have your actions result in an end game that really pulls the rug out from underneath you.
I think to some degree that's how life is. If you try to orient a society all around, like, the maximum way to make profit off of your fellow mankind, like, that's going to be a cold and heartless place, even if personal freedom was the thing that brought you there. Oh, yeah. I think that, I think that it's a very strong argument for the ends not justifying the means, but defining the means. Does that kind of make sense? Like, anything you do is going to be put in the context of what it achieves.
Yeah.
So, and even striving to make the world a better place, if you inadvertently make the world a worse place, it's going to be remembered. The legacy of it is going to be a negative one.
And you think that that's...
I think that's the most powerful tool the game has.
I like that a lot. Nuanced. I think... Do you think that there is a, like... Okay, so I now pretty consistently side with Yes Man when I'm finishing.
Attaboy.
Which is one of the best fucking characters in the whole game. If only to constantly hear about how he's programmed to, like, how he's fully capable of judging you, but he's incapable of disagreeing with you. I fucking love that character. But on top of that, it lets you live in... It doesn't even provide any speech options, really, when you're going through that playthrough that let you state that your vision for the wasteland is like true independence, and it doesn't really give you... It kind of automatically makes you a tyrant a little bit. It gives the player a whole bunch of power. If I'm remembering correctly, because it's been a long time since I actually finished the game, since I actually went to the second battle of Hoover Dam, and while it's kind of a bummer, I get to fucking... New Vegas was the first game in which I actually role played, like, because there are, and this also ties into a point that I want to make in a little bit, but it's the first game in which I decided to pretend to be something, whether that's, you know, somebody that, like, a character that doesn't believe in taking any kind of chems but doesn't agree with the Legion, and just giving my character so much, like, depth and background. And I also think I fell into this around the same time that I did D&D, and I think that those meshed very well together.
Absolutely.
They inspired each other quite a bit, because this D&D game that I'm running right now has a very deep political structure, and it's a lot of, like, making decisions, and eventually you're going to have to side with one, but you can pull assistance from another. I really want to talk to you about that at some point, because I can't fucking talk to Cosmos about it, because he's in the game.
I'm all ears, my friend.
Hell yeah. But I just gotta make sure I can't listen to it. No other game has really, like, inspired me to do that, and I feel like that goes to show that New Vegas is like the pinnacle, almost like the savior of the Western RPG, because before that, to look at, like, very not even necessarily innovative, but important Western RPGs, you have to go back. You know, I can't think of one of the early 2000s or even, you know, the late 2000s that have come out that have really fucking gotten a hold of my balls like New Vegas has. I mean, I guess there's Skyrim, but I think it's the same engine, and it's also made by Bethesda, and a lot of elements of the Elder Scrolls. I mean, it's working with a foundation that comes from, like, 20 years of thought, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think that's...
None of it's, like, super new grounds that it's breaking into.
Yeah, and I think that any legacy that Skyrim has that's really lasted has been for its artistry and for its gameplay, which is very, very fun. It does have an enjoyable gameplay loop. But I don't think that it has nearly the political depth.
I don't think it sparked the same conversations that New Vegas has.
Yeah, you will not find a quarter the video essays.
Seriously.
About
God,
Skyrim.
no other fucking video game has produced as many 4-hour videos on YouTube than New Vegas.
It's really a sight to see.
Yeah, and I love that. And that's what's fucking so great about it, is that it sparks those conversations, and you do actually try to figure out which ending is most moral, and people break it apart, and there's all kind of theories that come up that are the basis for videos that have come out, like which decision is actually most benefiting the wasteland and which is going to be the most long-lasting. And that's just in regards to the ending. That's not breaking apart so many of the side quests that come out. That's not talking about, the deeper mechanics of fucking the speech system or this or that or whatever. It's just about the ending, and it's no fucking game sparked conversation like New Vegas is. And so we're just fucking taking part in that. We're slapping another multi-hour video down that is talking all about New Vegas.
I hope it inspires someone to play.
Yeah, God,
and
please.
I hope it inspires someone else to think.
Yeah, I think that all of the most important people in my circle, the folks that have a face on my totem pole, are people that have devoted so many hours into New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the most important thing that I think the best thing to come out of Fallout 3, and subjectively the only good thing to come out of Fallout 3, is New Vegas. Like, I think that Fallout 3 was made to create New Vegas later on, because I think that, especially having the context of New Vegas, Fallout 3 is a fucking kind of shitty game. And I'm somebody who put a lot of goddamn hours into Fallout 3. I did my fucking homework. I played all the DLCs, this, that, and the other. But there's another point that I wanted to make, is that in Fallout 3, you aren't the person who's making any kinds of decisions. And this is why I bring up Fallout 3 in the first place, because it is kind of a great example of this condition that a lot of video games have. And I think it's a common story writing fucking tool to remember. It's a common tactic. Like, if you are writing a character and the most interesting and compelling event of that character's life has already happened, or is it going to happen in the future, why aren't you writing about that? And that's kind of similar to what you experience in Fallout 3. You aren't making any decisions. Like, the really important shit is all happening to different people. If you haven't played Fallout 3, also go play that, but not as badly. I don't want you to play that.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I wouldn't put you through that.
Yeah. I can't give like a gnarly recommendation on it, because honestly, the more I've sunk my teeth into, I keep saying that, the more I've sunk my teeth into New Vegas, the more I've grown to like kind of despise Fallout 3.
Yeah, but I do think you're onto something, that it really works as a character foil almost. It's a good point of reference for the things that really stand out about how New Vegas works, even though mechanically they're the same game. The way that writing can really make a difference between what goes down in history as a piece of just another RPG for the pile, and one of the media masterpieces of our generation. Yeah, seriously, it is like not even just on the surface. Like, the building blocks are the same for both games. It's just a couple more systems that are tacked on into New Vegas, but what they do with those systems and what they do with what they already have is just fucking just expectation shattering, I think. Absolutely.
But in Fallout 3, everything that's important is happening to other people. Your dad, your fucking dad, and it's also, God, how Fallout 3 starts is so ridiculous. Like, it's a joke. How do you start a story? Well, with the main character's birth. Like, that's baby's first fucking hero's journey, And they do it. They do it in Fallout 3.
Absolutely.
It's a fucking joke. And it takes like a whole hour to get through the introduction before you actually get your hands on the reins and steer the horse a little bit. But all the important shit is happening, or has already happened, to your dad. Like, what the fuck? This guy's shirtless on a riding mower on the road. Oh, God bless you.
King. That's the man I one day wish to be.
Yeah, you've been that man before. Don't pretend.
Yeah, but he didn't have his AirPods. That's the difference.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, wealth. That was
wealth is really the difference between me and that man right there.
Yeah.
Not a damn other thing.
It wasn't your sit-down mower is the difference between you and that man.
Exactly. When you're riding a man's mower, it's a totally different feeling.
Another man's mower. But and then even the end of the game, which is, the climax of the game is shit that's like none of it was your decision. Any of it, like it's your dad who turns on the water purifier and who came up with the idea in the first place. Fucking Liberty Prime does all the work for you in this like final battle. Like the Lion's Pride is subject to all kinds of fucking hardships, and they're responsible for fighting back. The Super Mutants, which is the main antagonist, which Fallout 3 did a terrible job with, if you have any kind of context from Fallout 1 and 2, along with the most assets of Fallout 3, did a terrible fucking job. It removed so much depth that was introduced to different elements of the Fallout universe in earlier games. But yeah, who wants to play that? Who wants to play as the secondary character, And Fallout New Vegas just completely flips that on its head. You are responsible for like everything
Absolutely.
that happens. And while that could be totally unrealistic, realism doesn't equate immersion, and I think immersion is kind of inherently good when it comes to a video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's like the kind of character that you play in Fallout New Vegas. Like it is like the archetype that you decide to go with can change so many things fundamentally, not just about you and your journey, but the rest of the world that you leave behind.
Yeah.
Whereas like it seriously fucking does not matter.
Yeah.
At the end, like the one decision that you make of any consequence in the game is to put a virus that kills irradiated people into the water purifier at the end.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're a bastard and you know it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And
that's all.
That's another thing that is like the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to New Vegas, is that the only decisions you get to make in Fallout 3 is good or bad. And there's not even any kind of strong allure towards being bad. And that's a problem that a lot of RPGs fall into, I think. It's like the illusion of choice almost.
Absolutely.
In that there's nothing that's super attractive about being bad. It's just that you get to live out, I don't know, some choices that you don't get to make conventionally because it would throw you in jail. That's the only attractor to bad decisions. And like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, which is a very popular RPG, very fucking popular, and reviewed very, very highly, but there's no, I can't think of, I saw something recently that 93% of players in Mass Effect, like throughout the Mass Effect series, 93% of them picked whatever the good karma title is for that game. It's like Protector or something like that. But 93% of them, and that just, and that's kind of a poor example because the developers said that they were actually really disappointed with that because they put a lot of depth into the Renegade storyline and all the different pieces to that. But I think that shows that traditionally people like to be liked in video games.
Absolutely.
And there's not really enough that's presented to be attractive towards being evil.
Oh god, all my early RPG characters were such fucking simps, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. So many times no, you keep the reward. Like you need it for your children. So many fucking
I have the option
quests
to not take money from you for doing work.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
You get that little your brain just develops this like endorphin giving response anytime that you hear that good karma sound pop up and that little like ticket in the corner.
Oh, it's just wild. Yeah, and so I think that oh god, you ever played Fable?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the first one. That's
I think 2 was the one I played. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't. I was at a friend's house. You know how it goes. But like, if you were bad in that game, horns started popping out of your head.
Yes.
And the badder you were, the more horn you got.
The more hornier you got.
And I think that is really just kind of the way that I think it emblemizes the thing.
The common approach to a morality system.
Yeah. Like it doesn't really do a whole lot, save for the fact that you're the bad guy. We'll give you these cool horns, and that's like all you get for being a bastard.
Yeah.
Like it's cool.
Yeah.
Like it's cool, or you're a genuinely good fella, and that's enough for you.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that New Vegas differs is that there's 4 main fucking ways to end the game, and quite a few other subplots that tie into that, and no one's entirely in agreement on what the good way to do it is.
And that's what is the opposite of its predecessor, Fallout 3, is that like there's so many more choices. But the one choice that is offered in Fallout 3 isn't really offered that much in New Vegas. Like, you definitely get opportunities to just be a fucking bastard. And sometimes those are kind of fun to play out. But I feel like that's just because it has a lot more depth than Fallout 3 had, because 3 didn't have any kind of attractor towards being evil.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, like, the developers knew that. When you inject the FEV into the water purifier, if you have broken steel, you get to see the effects of having the water purifier. And it's very hard to find any kind of information about what happens in broken steel after you put the virus in, because so few people do it, because there's no reason to. There's no motivation to do it. But I did it, and the only difference is that
monster.
I know. Well,
you picked the bad option.
You're a bad boy.
How could you?
I do remember going to friends' houses when they're playing like RPGs and they're picking like the bad things, and I'm like, no. Such a fucking sin.
Oh man.
They're like, dude, that's just code, man. Stop letting your heart get broken when I blow up Megaton. But
oh man. Yeah, that is another cool thing that happens if you do the bad out. You get to watch a city full of innocent people get blown fucking sky high, and it's just cool.
Yeah, and there you go. Like it is just cool. But that's the only example wherein picking the bad thing actually has like I don't know, it's cinematic. It's just like anything.
Yeah.
That's the only time that something is attractive to being evil, and it's the only thing is that you get to see a cool thing. Everybody's quick saved and then blown up Megaton to see the nuclear bomb blast, especially back then when you didn't have the thought to look it up on YouTube, or that wasn't enough for you or whatever. But
you wanted to feel your controller rumble as you
and go back and see ghoulified Moira Brown. That's always nuts.
Brings a tear to my eye. And sweet lady.
And that's funny, because like Megaton, nothing in Megaton really matters, because it's like the developers know there's going to be an opportunity to blow it up and kill everybody inside, except for Moira Brown's quest line, because they put a whole bunch of effort into it, and like it's got a lot of fun elements to it, and they don't want players to miss out on that. So she's the only character that can survive the blast, and it's kind of lore breaking what happens to her. For the record, it's fucking, you don't become a ghoul in 1 second. But anyway, that's all besides the point. The point being that New Vegas is so much more nuanced and thoughtful than that, because nobody in reality just wants to be evil. There's psychopaths, but that's a chemical imbalance in your brain. That's a disease. And
I'm sure, even not that I'm a psychologist or anything, but even in a sort of mental arena like that, it's probably not that these people want to be
that's true
bastard.
Too.
It's that they get something physiologically from doing something that has that kind of
that response.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And so so they provided many more options and gave a lot more depth to all the different little factions and groups because they took that kind of like fundamental understanding of how people work and they threw it into they threw it into their universe, and so that gives it so much more depth. That's the fucking ticket word of the day is depth. Like all of them are every mentality that you find in the wasteland is a little bit understandable, and you can empathize with it.
And actually, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit about that depth thing, because I think that so in the Legion playthrough, there is really not a lot of content. That's I've been watching one of the lead writers do a stream where he plays through Fallout New Vegas, and one of the big things that he talks about is that there really ain't a lot of stuff that you can do if you decide to side with the Legion. It's a very bare bones point A to point B kind of thing, and yet it's still embraced by a wide variety of people. Why do you think that is? How does even like lacking the sort of interconnected depth that you might have working out the political relations between the NCR and the Great Khans and the Brotherhood of Steel? If that's why it's so important, the way that an NCR playthrough is written, why does a Legion playthrough still have so much clout?
I think that I heard somebody bring up this exactly what you were talking about in some video recently. Like, there is a lot less just straight up content for a Legion playthrough, and I think it was a little naive to assume this, but one of the justifications that he had for that was that the Legion is a more efficient machine. Like, the thing that the NCR is constantly criticized for is its bureaucracy, that it's not able to get anything done, and that's why it has you do so much shit for it. But the Legion is the opposite. It goes there and it gets shit done. It finishes the job like immediately every single time, and that's why there's less to do. I think that there's probably a lot more that went into the development cycle than that. I think it would be really cool if that was like the case. I think that would be a really interesting approach to game design. If
a very specific decision to not really flesh it out, because that's what it is.
And it would be very, very meta, I think, as well, to like give the player less game because the faction that it's siding with is so good at achieving its goals. But I think that there is a little bit of truth to that. Like, I think that there are some missions that the devs threw in for the NCR side quest that are like kind of padded, that are kind of filler because they really want you to feel like the NCR needs a lot of help, that they really are spread way too thin. But when it comes to the Legion, that's the front of its forces, you know? It's at 100% strength just on the other side of the dam. Do I think that that's what's really going on there? Probably not. I think that it could have to do with... I realize your question isn't why is that, but...
I mean, I consider this a valid response. I mean,
okay.
Let's see if we can get there.
yeah, right. But what are you doing? We're finding lots of weird little equipment everywhere. That guy's got a killer fucking bike.
That bike has like enough storage. He could take my entire fucking room with him.
Yeah, you could throw everything that I own. I love those like expedition bikes, those adventure bikes or whatever. Fucking killer. I think
I'd like to ride across the country on one of those one of these days.
Dude, we gotta fucking
just go north till the road ends.
Dude,
something like that.
That would be so nice. Take all kinds of backcountry roads. I've always wanted to do the 20 from Willits to Fort Bragg. I've always on a motorcycle. Cody, my friend Cody, says that that's how he's gonna die. He's just gonna rail through those gnarly curves that take you to Fort Bragg as fast as he can when he's like 80.
What a way to go.
Yeah, but yeah, it could also be that that's just. I mean, 3 is a good example of not putting a whole bunch of effort into the kind of objectively immoral decisions that you can make, and so that could be happening there because the Legion, I do think, is objectively evil, and so thusly less people are going to pick it, and so you don't have to put as much work into it.
Absolutely.
You know. But I don't like that. I don't like that idea. I don't think that's. I think that is belittling the thought process of the developers. I know that they didn't have that much time, and so if you're going to cut content anywhere of any of the factions, I would pick the Legion because they have a lot of history that you can figure out for being an entirely new faction that's introduced into the Fallout canon. And so you could spend a long time learning about the New Canaanites or their relationship with the Great Khans or whatever, and you could really get some hours out of that. And then thusly you don't need to throw as many hours into the actual quest lines. I don't know. It's a good fucking mental train to follow, though, to break apart. I don't know.
Neither do I. It's a question that will perhaps be solved by another investigated playthrough as the Legion, where I have to grit my teeth and try not to cry every time I kill a beloved NPC.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, you do kill a lot of. But you get the long carabine, and that's always a cool gun.
This is a little just side niggle I got.
But
there's so many members of the NCR that have named weapons.
Yes.
And whenever, and I did do a Legion playthrough, and it seems more in line with the whole aesthetic to do a melee-based character if you're doing a Legion playthrough. So you do the one playthrough, which it feels right to kill all these folks and get their named special weaponry, and then you don't fucking use them.
Because they're all
because you're using a helicopter blade as a weapon.
Yeah, Blade of the West. I want to jump into the next point that I have.
Oh, please, yeah. We also hadn't talked none about Helios One.
Oh my God,
and I do wish you would. Okay. I'm sorry, I've sidetracked you twice.
It's so okay. That's the that's the beauty of this, and I do feel like I don't actually know that we've stated it implicitly, but every Nitro Ride is accompanied with sometimes a copious amount of caffeine, which is a very fun tool to use. It makes you jump all the time and get sidebarred. But
absolutely,
I love the science of what we're putting together here. But anyway,
it also really fills up your bladder. Right?
You got to pee?
I've got a bit of that in me.
Well, we can dispel your pee. We can do it
together.
I'll help
only with your hand holding ability. My dear Coyote, will I be able to? Well, I didn't want to be blue on our podcast, but it's definitely my balls.
We'll find a fucking pull out here in a second.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
But Helios One was a good example of very branching path. And I think my original point was that you can get something that prevents the success of a lot of different factions and turns you into a god by giving you this weapon that I think you can only shoot once a day.
Yeah, fucking super weapon.
Yeah, but it's a super weapon.
Laser from the heavens.
There is an attractor to pick the objectively immortal choice, because it's literally the most powerful weapon in the game, and it has the most unique mechanic out of all of them. You can get grenade machine guns and mini nuke launchers and Tesla cannons and all kinds of unique and cool guns, but everything pales in comparison to Euclid's Seafinder, because it shoots a fucking laser from the sky. Nothing else does that.
Not a thing.
Or alternatively, I'm trying to find you a pee party here, but I don't know if this might not be the right fucking playground for it.
Oh, that's all right. I've never been averse to peeing in someone's front yard, getting the fuck out of there right away.
Oh, that sounds fun. Let's do that. Come on.
We're all wearing masks these days. I'm not too worried about people recognizing me.
Come on, P-Town. You want to plant this tree right here?
Oh my God, this is.
There's folks out. Are there folks out?
Do
you want to?
No, there ain't. I just know the folks who live here,
Okay.
which is mighty funny.
Is this okay? You are a little bit on display here.
I am a little bit that.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm heading up the.
I just know that.
Drive a little bit.
So, total side tangent. I was in.
Do we cut the P-Talk?
Huh?
Do we cut the P-Talk in post? Do we clear that shit?
No, absolutely not.
I love it.
Me? No,
it's an experience.
Yeah, exactly. That's one. Continuing talking about the science of this shit. That's like the atmosphere. I think is going to be what is attractive to people. Like it's just a couple of dudes talking in a car. You know, it's not like we stick to some fucking. Oh, is this a hard pull? Ooh.
Perfect.
Fucking P-Town, USA.
Poo with a view.
Poo with a view. I love poo with a view.
Me too.
Back on. Doesn't pause, it just mutes it. So I always have to wait to fucking edit around this little chunk. It's the worst. If we were smart boys, we'd probably just pause the video or pause the recording and start it back up. But we're not. We're stupid gang only. Helios One. So I might need your help remembering all the different places that the power can go to. But basically, there's a solar array. It's controlled by the NCR, and they're having a bunch of problems, right? Like with holding on to the what's fucking going on at Helios? I don't remember what the initial problem is. I just remember a lot of what happens as an end result of the quest.
So you show up a fair stretch after the Brotherhood of Steel has been forcibly kicked out of Helios One by the NCR.
Yeah.
In their attempts to hold it and specifically to prevent the NCR from gaining control of it, they initiate all of these safety procedures to lock them out of the whole place and set up a shitload of traps as they make their escape. That is the most beautiful fucking cow
my God.
I have ever seen.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's also got some pretty big balls.
Dude, you're fucking jealous as fuck right now.
I am.
That's such a big cow! Oh my God, I'm losing my mind.
Little kisses.
Great. Great. I'm fucking vegan now.
Yep, that's... You had to pull into this particular cul-de-sac, my friend.
Fucking go, cow. But you do, go on.
Yeah, and so we show up in the aftermath of this. There's Brotherhood bodies on the ground, and within the Helios One power station, they want you to go in and restart the system to end the lockout. They're getting something like 10% of the total power at the beginning. And they have this crazy sort of scientist with
named Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic. He's got a theoretical degree in physics.
Yes. Theoretical degree.
And so they offer to pay you if you manage to get it, so they don't have to send anyone else into this death trap.
That's right.
To get them killed. So, because it's a video game, of course you have exactly the expertise.
Yes.
To bust them out of this situation. And if you do, you can you have the unique position of getting to redirect the power into different places, or also to fry every living being in the solar station, except yourself, should you so desire. So I think your options are to direct power back to the city of New Vegas, which is what the NCR is paying you to do. To distribute the power across the wasteland.
They only get like 5% or something like that.
Yeah, it's supposed to, you like cover your tracks so it looks like, New Vegas is getting power, but you're also diverting power around the wasteland that is subject to rolling brownouts, but that's a whole other situation. I think Or you can divert the power specifically to powering Helios One as a super weapon, which is what it was originally designed for.
Yeah.
Which you activate by using Euclid's C Finder.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if you pick any of those 3 options, you can additionally decide whether or not you want to roast everyone.
Yeah.
Chilling out at the power plant as well. It's pretty horrific if you do it. I didn't do it myself, but
I've never done that before.
I certainly watched.
Seen some videos.
Some YouTube.
Yeah, it's a good example of like how branching the game is. The vault, I don't know if it's 113 or whatever, but there's a certain vault in the game wherein it's like overrun by plant life, right?
Oh
You
absolutely.
The name? I don't remember. What
14? I'm not sure. 21?
But anyway, it's maybe 21. But anyway, maybe 27. Anyway!
4, 8, 15, 16, 20, 22. I watched Lost.
There's the numbers, Mason. There's so many different ways to end up there. Like, there's Thomas Hildern at the fucking, not the Crimson Caravan Company,
Camp McCarran.
Camp McCarran. There is, I think, the Brotherhood will send you there, and there's like two other ways to start the quest line to get in there.
Yeah. Aside from just wandering.
Exactly, yeah. And then also you could just fucking wander in. And then you hear rumors about it from different people across the wasteland, and that's one example. There, if you've been to Helios One and you're exposed to all the solar panels there, and then you go to Ellis Air Force Base, and you know how they have that mission to fix the solar panels.
Yeah.
You can recall your knowledge of being at Helios, and if you don't have the repair skill or whatever to fix the solar array, you can go back to Helios 1, and there are these like damaged solar panels that you can scavenge from, go back to Ellis Air Force Base, and then use those parts to fix their solar panels. And it doesn't take any skill checks. It's just like if you already know about that shit, you can fast travel real quick, grab them, and then go back to the boomers. And there's so many examples of that, like of just this like gnarly, super tangled web of plot hooks and plot points and opportunities, and the game like orchestrates it beautifully. Like there are so many games that have characters that can't be killed because the game won't be able to progress otherwise. You know, there's fucking what in Morrowind? It's like it says some like corny ass fucking title about how like your journey has been changed forever, and you would know like if you actually kill a character. But it's fun to watch New Vegas like scramble to pick up the pieces after you just totally break it, and it'll still push you forward. Like even
you can kill literally every character, everyone,
yeah.
including the one character that it kind of comes up with a bullshit excuse for is Yes Man,
and you can still kill him.
You can still kill him
at multiple times because he just keeps getting uploaded, like re-uploaded
into a new robot. Yeah,
and that's fucking incredible. Like so many games can't possibly do that, and New Vegas does it in 18 months. And on top of that, like so many new mechanics and new, just like wholly new content introduced to the Fallout canon. Like it's nuts, and I think that the developers all deserve just a nice little kiss on their wieners, because god damn.
Oh, I'm in line already.
God damn. Being able to juggle all of these pieces has got to be fucking nuts, and it's got to drive you insane. But oh, they do it so well. No other game has like the branches. No other game is such a tangled tree. Vegas.
Absolutely. You know, I would like to give a swift little piece of recognition to The Witcher 3, which is a fantastic game, which still does not have the decision-making depth that New Vegas does. And I wanted to talk about choosing the wrong option, or like you know the bad option, as being something that's rewarded. In the the DLC Hearts of Stone, and I'm sorry if you haven't played it, 'cause I'm about to...
That's the one DLC I haven't played, but go ahead.
Oops. Oh, boy. Okay, so, do you know anything about it?
Gontar O'Dim.
Oh, yeah.
Man of Mirrors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Master Mirror.
Yeah.
So, he gets you into a contract, and you can decide to help him, or you have to help him to get out of your contract, but you can help him take someone's soul right there at the end, or rather just let him, or you can challenge him and try to get him free. And obviously the thing to do is, there is a right option, which is to help Gontar O'Dim not take this poor man's soul.
Yeah.
But if you do let it happen, you can acquire from Gontar O'Dim one of the a unique item. It's the best item for Roach that you can get. It's a saddle. Turns him into a demon horse.
Really?
Demon horse.
Oh, that is so fucking cool.
Oh.
Whoa! No! Oh my God! Did you survive?
Oh,
Please say you survived.
well,
Oh
hot
my
damn.
God. I have to pull over and look at my car. Might have just killed the squirrel. That's funny. Animals have played like a pretty pivotal... I hope it doesn't right now, because the example would be that I just killed it, but animals always play like kind of a role in these episodes, whether like there's a turkey in the middle of the road.
Let's
talk about turkey vultures or whatever the fuck.
What do we got here? You kill a boy. Great news, everyone. Seems like our boy Coyote has managed to not kill a boy.
Through almost no intervention of my own. This is all about the fucking squirrel making it out of that one.
Absolute agility.
Yeah.
So that's what that kid's got going for him.
But oh God, I want to talk more about this game. I always want to talk more about this game.
Yeah, and there's so much that we haven't even dived into. I mean, there's the super mutant
like the stealth boy addiction, or which
gosh, I'm trying to think of the whole rehab facility they have going.
Jacobstown,
yeah. And we could talk about the great cons and drug addiction and the way all the tribals really sort of take a Native American-esque sort of aesthetic and apply it to the game without actually having the ability to create characters marked as Native American, and sort of borrowing this aesthetic, and how that's both helpful as a storytelling mechanic, but also maybe a little bit racist. We have just wells and wells of things that we can pull out and discuss.
Shit to take apart. I think it's definitely a game for Fallout fans and for fans of RPGs. Maybe not so much for fans of shooters, but
maybe not.
All the rehab work that it does for because Obsidian is like a rework of the old Black Isles company, right? A lot of the OG devs from Black Isles came together to create Obsidian, or do you know the background for that? Do you know the history of that?
There was a time in late high school where I would have been able to recount and tell with much more clarity than I can today, but I do know that largely, yes, that is the case. Yeah. That, there was a sort of exodus as small gaming companies were bought up by the dozens, and talented developers who felt that their new corporate overlords were not treating their design plans and respectabilities as artists the way they should be. It sort of created this vacuum that was filled largely by small companies like Obsidian forming from the remnants of creators
really
of our once
prominent
great
creators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The folks leaving and rebanding together under a new umbrella to create the games that they wanted to be creating, rather than the ones that places like EA and Activision were milking the tits out of. Yeah. You get it.
That is some of the worst shit to see.
Oh man, and I think that there's sort of the legacy of Fallout New Vegas today is really it presents a very fine counterpoint to that sort of
approach. Yeah.
I think like if you were to look at Fallout 76, where we are right now, it's very.
It is so just like gentrified.
Absolutely. I like the original Fallout 1 and Fallout New Vegas were very clear in their critiques of capitalism. In that, you know, you see shit that never would have that supposedly never would have flown in real life, like Nuka Cola. That whole thing was supposed to be a parody of the, you know, the whole, like, I believe it was, I'm gonna say the wrong thing. I think it was radium. I don't. What was the, you know, the thing, like they made like glow in the dark shit out of it for a while.
Oh God.
What element that is?
Oh God,
Iridium.
Iridium.
Yeah.
No, that's the Borderlands.
That's a real thing, though.
Iridium is?
Yeah.
Really? Well, maybe I actually heard it. Maybe I've heard of Iridium before. Really context. But I know what you're fucking talking about. Like, radium sounds very close.
Great. I'm pretty sure that's a gas, but
okay.
I don't know. Anyway, point is, it's there was a point in time where we discovered this metal that would glow in the dark, and we put it in paints. You could get water infused with it that was supposed to, sort of like a, you know, Dr. Floydium's miracle creation, that sort of thing.
Snake oil.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to be sort of a parody of that. This stuff was radioactive and giving everyone cancer, and so we have Nuka Cola, this drink that, you know, like the Nuka Cola Quantum. It's in the fiction of the game is supposed to be a radioactive drink that was recalled, but you can still find bottles here and there, and you get some radiation if you drink it. Yada yada. And yet now they're selling all this branded stuff that is they are actually selling the things that they created as a parody of worthless and harmful garbage being sold.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah,
the irony of that.
It's come full circle.
Yeah. Oh, that is fucking funny. Like purchasing, like Fallout 3, like propaganda material. To hang in your bedroom is
absolute and
full of irony.
And it's all changed. The intellectual property has changed ownership so many times. It's hard to even tell if the current owners know
how
that's
self-aware this shit is.
Yeah. Because you can buy. I remember they were selling like helmets, modeled off of power armor that ended up like molding on the inside. It's all just an excuse to sell shit. Yeah.
Well, the whole fucking, like, what has happened to that series on the whole, as now that it is owned by Bethesda. Now that property, that intellectual property, is owned by Bethesda, is really sad. And I think that you could, I don't know, it's just an example of not the monopoly necessarily, but like a negative downstream component of capitalism, like, because it had so much heart and so much passion and consideration, and these people really fucking loved this series, and this new company, I think, just really took advantage of the fans, and because I'm pretty well read on the controversies around Fallout 76, like the helmet that came out and how fucking, like, that was such a disaster, and there was false marketing saying that the bag that it was going to come in was going to be made out of canvas, but instead it was like this super cheap, shitty nylon, which is just poor a fucking that's a terrible thing to do as a company, period. But to also be simultaneously taking advantage of people and their passions, like as the driving force behind what's going to, like, get them to consume something. Like, if you're not getting people to buy shit because it's a good product, but you're instead capitalizing off of their passions, it feels so evil to me, and it's so scary and shitty to see it fall into this trap that so many good old IPs have fallen into. Like, like Mass Effect Andromeda is a good example. Like, this fucking disaster piece of a game that whose story had been concluded, and all this shit. They're just fucking reaping it for all the money that they can out of it. And now we reach the pinnacle of that, the prime example of like shitty gentrification of passion projects, and that is Fallout 76. Like, it's removed of all of the real Fallout components, like thoughtful NPCs. There are hardly any like real side quests. It's sad.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that like it's almost like just a gestalt of all of the things that are sort of like in vogue in video game culture at the moment. So there's it's open world, it's base building, it's
survival crafting.
It's survival crafting. Yeah, you take all these little bits and you throw them together, and like you get something that really doesn't have a direction.
Yeah,
you just do it.
Yeah.
And you take a funky franchise and aim to slap on the front of it, and you got yourself a full package that people sell out for months before you even release it, just because you show a 20-second animation where some music that sounds like it's from a Michael Bay movie plays, and then the Fallout logo and the little Vault Boy pops up on the screen, and that's it. That's all you need.
How ironic that
for people to shell out $60 for a game that they're not going to see any gameplay of for another 6 months.
Yeah, God. How ironic for Fallout to become a victim of capitalism. Like, how? That's so funny.
Especially since that is the thing that it was that is the original one
was all about. That it's like the negative results of capitalism, and it is now a negative result of capitalism.
Right?
Oh, it's the worst. That happened to fucking Metal Gear Solid too. It's just like such a beloved game for me. Like that, the first disc game I ever owned, the first video game I ever owned was Metal Gear Solid, and at some point I'm hoping I can grab somebody to just fucking break that series apart with. But because not a lot of people have played all the games, and it's such a convoluted storyline, but and it's almost, I don't even know.
It's Kingdom Hearts with guns.
It's Kingdom Hearts with guns and America.
yeah, there's also some
and it's
American politics.
It's
not
not
up in there.
I don't think it's something that you can even get into anymore because of how much you needed to be able to grow up with the product. Like, it would take the whole year of just playing Metal Gear Solid to get all those pieces together. Nobody has that kind of time, but fucking Metal Gear Zombies, dude! When Metal Gear Survive came out, that was another example. And it's funny because Metal Gear Solid is like a gnarly criticism of America and like Western politics and fucking world domination and all this shit. And while it's not a perfect parallel, it's funny to see it go to just like this super commercialized kind of shitty product.
Nano machines, son.
Yeah, nano machines. Okay, Rising Revengeance is a fucking great game, for the record. That if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan and you got turned off because it's about a cyborg ninja, which is kind of Metal Gear Solid at a core to a point, but if you got turned off because it's not about stealth action anymore, and it's just play that game, that is the opposite effect. That's like one of the best gameplay loops I've ever gotten to play with, just using a sword and cutting shit up. It's so besides any of the points that we're making, but oh my god, play that game too. Just sucking dick about video games, man. Like
that's could do it all day, and it seems like we're about to.
Yeah, it's video games. I'm glad to see that it is like in the mainstream now, but all of the results of that, the corporate results of that are really disheartening. Like, I'm glad that it's accepted as an art form. I feel like that's where we're at now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like very incredible performances by voice actors or by developers are kind of at our forefront now, and video games cost millions and millions of dollars to make now, unfortunately, but but it is accepted to be a person that really enjoys video games. And I remember a time when that really wasn't the case. Like, if somebody was asking you what you like to do,
you made sure that was at the end of your list, and
exactly.
you tried to distract them with something else before you got there.
Like, oh, well, I played sports and fucking, I'm really into this and really into that, and then I'll play video games sometime, when in reality, video games occupies like 60% of
that's
the
the
time.
main thing. And then sometimes I have a ukulele upstairs. I
Yeah.
played it like a week ago, and maybe I will if you come over, but that's about all I got.
I'm certainly not going to show you this fucking 400-hour Minecraft world.
Minecraft was where I was going to go with that too.
But I'm glad that that's where we're at, you know. But God, the fucking.
You want to see my nether highway?
You want to see the supercomputer that I built out of redstone? But I think that that's a result of us, like, being the generation that has grown up with video games. I know that there was, like, Doom and Quake, which predates us, like, as a like,
as
how old I am.
Human being.
Yeah, but I don't know. That I don't feel like that was like the real kind of like cultural revolution in the context of video games that kind of came out around like the Halo era, Halo 2. You know,
and I think that has like some tie-ins with writing. I mean, I feel like games like Quake and Doom were like it was the fact that you could actually do something like this with this technology. Like you could. You could click on something, and if you clicked it good enough, it would explode in a shower of blood and particle effects.
Yeah, and that was very new.
Yeah, and that was all you needed to make a game that whose legacy would live on till today.
Yeah.
But now that we're here, now that we've like sort of passed on from like, oh, what a technical marvel. Yeah. Now you actually there's some writing you got to do to make something that'll last.
Yeah.
And I think that we're still stuck in that idea of if we hit the next technical marvel, like that'll make our game sell well.
Yeah.
Which is why you get games that are like 150 gigabytes to download.
I see.
Because they continue to try to be more
constantly pushing the envelope, because games have been seen as such a disposable medium for such a long time. Like a game that is just 2 years old is like suddenly objectively fucking destroyed by the passage of technology, by the new shit that's coming out. It's so quickly like an ice. It so quickly becomes an eyesore to somebody who regularly consumes video games.
Absolutely.
And while I don't think graphics are the cornerstone of video games, I think that mechanics are, and mechanics themselves can become outdated. I don't want to go back and play the original Doom. I don't. I'm not gonna pretend that it's fucking fun as shit. I recognize the history of it and how important it was, and the lasting impact that it's had on video games and shooters. But I'm not fucking.
Absolutely.
I'm not opening that shit up every day.
Yeah, unless I'm gonna be writing like a fucking dissertation on the evolution of the video game mechanic.
Yeah.
Like there isn't really a reason to go back and play that when superior options exist.
Yeah.
And I think that the way that sort of translated into the modern day arena of comparative video game creation on the AAA scale is that, like, if we can pump enough money into this game, we can develop new technologies to make it prettier, to refine the game mechanics. But I think that once you get to a point, you've got a razor sharp edge of like how do you hone that any further in a way that really fucking matters.
Yeah, I think that's what scares me about the current era of games that we're in, is that it's so expensive to produce a video game now, and it requires such a large team in order to stay on that razor's edge of innovation and technology. And that's the only way that at least people believe, especially on the AAA scale, if you're trying to get your game to sell millions of copies, that you have to have these, like, and it becomes like a victim of bureaucracy, and you also have to make sure that it's that everybody in the world is going to buy it, and thusly you lose a lot of what makes a game special.
Absolutely, yeah, and that I think is something that's absolutely artificial.
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't be here unless there had been this culture created around the production of video games. It's all about the bumping up your numbers. How many?
More copies sold every single year. Like that it's always chasing that.
Yeah, it's like playing fucking Diablo 3 over here, just trying to get like a piece of equipment with higher numbers.
Yeah.
How many numbers your video game got in the pixel count? How many size that polygon that's your player character have?
Oh man, that's a bizarrely perfect parallel. Like,
it's really upsetting to me as I don't know, a person who really enjoys wanting to experience video games for the story that they tell. And, you know what a really good contemporary example of this would be? Hades. Have you played Hades?
I haven't, but I really fucking need to. I just got a Switch pretty recently. So
it's very horny. But in a way I think that a wide audience can really get into.
Like actually horny? Or is
it is a little horny. There's a fair bit of sex you can have in that game.
Woo! Alright, I'll buy it.
Yeah, it's and it's beautiful. It's everything's hand drawn.
Yeah. Wow.
It's wonderfully voice acted. The story is well crafted. Everything, including failure in the game, is accounted for narratively. I think it's a very thoughtful game made by a small team in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
That really feels impactful in an artistic sense.
Yeah.
And I know that it's currently one of the highest reviewed games on Steam at the moment. I think top 50. I haven't checked in a while.
Yeah, I know it's. I looked at bestsellers today on the Switch, and it was like number 4 or something.
Bada bing, bada boom, my friend.
And I mean, is that going to reach the commercial success of a new fucking Call of Duty coming out? Probably not, But nonetheless, I mean, you're definitely coming out on top in terms of how much money that you threw into it, and on top of that, hopefully the thoughtful, beautiful game designer isn't just chasing that algorithm, isn't just trying to sell as many copies as possible. You got to go soon?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah, my good old mammy.
Mommy.
Was telling me to have a good day. And, I feel a little warm in the left breast
Love
area.
Your mom. That's actually an episode of Nitro Ride that's going to come out pretty soon.
Love your mom?
Moms, yeah.
Oh, well, I got a monopoly on that particular
You do, yeah. You're very wealthy on the mom front.
More so than your average chap,
yeah.
I might even say.
For those of you that don't know, Easy has 2 mommies.
I got 2. Two mommies?
Blessed with 2 mommies.
My God-given gift.
Yeah.
Of a couple of mothers.
God bless your mommies. But yeah, I fucking, I consume this shit. I'm a fiend for video games. I love them. I love fucking the breaking down like the history of a development, especially if it's a game that I really, really enjoy. I like having that context before I start it. I like what a kind of new not concept, but I feel like we're being exposed to like the comebacks of developers in video games. The most obvious example being No Man's Sky. Like, that game has come from the grave into like one of the top sellers on Steam currently, and it is because of the love that the developers have been throwing into it. And I was one of the people that was just shitting on No Man's Sky as soon as it came out.
You and me both,
I didn't have any kind of platform or anything, but if I did, I would have been just right on that train, when it was becoming like more fun to shit on No Man's Sky than it was to actually play it. Have you seen some videos like breaking down that whole experience and some of the theories as to why it just got fucking overhyped to shit? And have you seen any of that shit?
Well, I've been a little less receptive to actually going out of my way to like look at that sort of content. And I have some pretty strong opinions about this whole culture that we have developing of games as a service.
As a service?
Absolutely, rather than as a product. And I think that for all of its success and for how happy I am that they were able to turn something as ambitious and unique a project as No Man's Sky was into something beautiful and amazing.
Yeah.
I do think that that place that what they did is going to be touted in defense of a lot of games that will come out in the next 10 to 15 years, coming out unfinished.
Yeah.
And people saying, "Oh no, it's fine.
It'll get fixed."
Exactly. This could be the next No Man's Sky.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the importance of knowing, like, the history of that. Maybe that's a reason why you might want to, like, the people might want to educate themselves as to why No Man's Sky deserves the success that it's experiencing.
Yeah.
Because from what I've, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but from what I've read and watched, it was just like this shitty result of a lot of bad PR, of this small company getting endorsed and by Sony really quickly, and getting kind of sponsored by Sony, and it's like a pretty good critique of the gaming community, and like how hype can be incredibly destructive towards the end result of a game, because it was like a very small studio, and these like lies that what's that guy's name, Sean Murray, these like lies that Sean Murray are being like heavily criticized for aren't necessarily lies, and how he is kind of a fucking introvert and wasn't really supposed to be thrown into a media circuit of that level, but they had such a small team that they didn't have anybody else to do it with, or to throw onto that stadium.
Interesting.
And all these things that he said were probably going to be in the game took place like 3 or 4 years before the game got actually released, and there are all these features that he thinks the team is going to be able to put into the game by the time that it comes out. And so he was working on the assumption that gaming journalism provides the pretext that you need to take things with a grain of salt. But that's not how gaming journalism works. It takes anything that it hears and turns it into a promise to the consumer. And it's also a critique of how closely gamers tie their expectations to the price tag. Like, if No Man's Sky came out and costed $30, it would have been I think it would have been a much different reception than when it came out. I think for a full 60,
Interesting.
Like, people tie that to like a standard triple A production, which No Man's Sky totally wasn't. And then all the DLC came out, has been free, which is fucking incredible, because they've just been working on it. Like, the only kind of money that they've been making right now is because the cost of the game is going up and more people are buying the game. And so on top of that, everything that that Sean Murray has said is going to be in the game has been introduced to the game, and then so much more. Like, there's a video on it, I think, by Internet Historian, which is a great little resource. I think it's like an hour long, so it's a pretty good little cast to listen to if you're doing something for a while. But
like playing No Man's Sky.
Like playing No Man's Sky, for example. And I'm kind of a sucker in that I don't mind a video game in which I can play and listen to a podcast with. I don't know how I should feel about video games like that, like that aren't immersive enough to just let you thrive in that world. Like, I really don't mind going back and playing like Borderlands 2, for example. I'll play that and just like listen to a podcast at the same time. That's a bit of a different example, because when I was playing it for the first time, maybe it was, fucking super enthralling, and I was all glued to my seat because it's got a great antagonist and a relatively interesting storyline. But And that game has very good gunplay, which is why I keep going back and listening and playing it, having some kind of podcast on while I do so. But I don't mind that kind of shit. But I can definitely see the opposite standard in which, you know, the game has to have, if you're paying for some kind of, you know, for an art, for media like that, you're paying for entertainment, and so it should be able to sustain, you know, your attention for as long as its runtime is going to persist. I get that, and I don't know if No Man's Sky is, I don't know which side of the fence it falls on, because honestly I haven't fucking played it since it came out, but I do know that the Steam reviews have gone from very negative to very positive in the last year.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of that myself. It's one of those titles that's just been that I've kind of forever banished to sitting on my wish list.
I get it.
On Steam, just so I can like check in on them periodically.
Yeah, for sure.
And so though I haven't been as invested in that whole story, I have, you know, poked my head in once in a while just to see on the surface what's going on. And I think that it's I don't know. I have a couple things that you said that I want to respond to.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about games as a service, too.
Yeah. Well, okay, here. In that case, let me hit this one thing and we'll hop right into it. Games that you can do something else while playing. I think, like, I think it would be wrong to criticize those games because I don't think that games as an art form is a monolithic thing. You know, like there isn't a right way to make a video game. I think a lot of what we're doing in this whole conversation is talking about many of the wrong ways that you can make a video game, because those are, you know, all over the place.
Yeah. There are some of those.
Yeah,
I think.
I'd even hazard to say there are more of those than there are. More infractions than there are really good, genuine ideas.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that, like, you know, whenever there's something that works, right after that you see a fucking lot of iterations on that thing, and so you have a good idea within the realm of gaming, and then a million people's different ideas on how they might scrape a few bucks out of that. And so I think that the games that are engaging on a gameplay level, but really not on like a level that you really have to think about it, you know, fuck it, even Tetris if you want.
Yeah, there you go. Tetris is a good fucking game.
one of the longest lasting, and I know that there are some, like, I was reading something about how it's visually stimulating in such a way that sometimes if people have just experienced some sort of like trauma, that like the main piece of it was that they witnessed something happen, if whoever is treating them directly after having experienced this is able to giving them some way to play Tetris, and the way that game works, and its colors, its sounds, the way that you have to be constantly focused on the way that it works can sort of overwrite the way that your brain processes witnessing a trauma like that, and can lessen the sort of PTSD-esque flashbacks to that moment by overriding what your brain is processing in that moment with Tetris. And
that is fucking...
Isn't that fucking wild?
That is nuts.
I am not an expert. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, I would definitely suggest that you listen to the Ludology episode of Ologies, which is another podcast that we're in no way affiliated with. Yeah. But it's a good one.
Okay. Fuck, that sounds so interesting. Holy shit. I'm gonna have to listen to that after this.
Please do.
Yeah.
You ever heard of Ologies?
It sounds like a good one.
Oh, it's really neat. There's this lady, Allie Ward, and she goes around and interviews experts on different subjects. Ooh. So Ologies, you know.
Yeah, right.
Gameology or
all the different ologies.
You get it. It's
that sounds killer. I'm gonna have to check that out.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Anyway, games as a service. That's That's a juicy piece of meat that we can tie our dip those teeth into.
Yeah, for real. I hear that like original point that you made about like I think the culture becoming more and more comfortable with a game coming out with the like I can't whilst carrying that idea that it's going to be finished as the years progress. That's the era that we're in right now. Like a lot of these early access kind of fucking alpha or betas, and I get the benefit of that from a developer's standpoint. If you are, if you're like, I get the benefit of playtesting. Like Tarkov is an example. That game's been in beta for quite some time, right? And there's like consistently these wipes wherein all people's progress gets lost and all kinds of new changes come into the game.
Tell me about it.
That was one of my first fucking experiences with Tarkov. I spent like 3 days playing it, and I was getting it to the point where I could fucking kind of figure it out, and I had some cool gear, just happenstance fall into my lap because I came into a firefight, and I came into the aftermath of somebody else's firefight. I'm a fucking rat player. I'm totally a rat.
Oh,
not in chat.
You and me both, my friend.
Proud rat. Yeah. But and then I got wiped, which is just fucking such a bummer.
Absolutely.
But I get that. But I think it's such a dirty little trap that we could fall into if we become way too comfortable with it.
No, absolutely, and I think that it's a lot to do with the handling of it. Because if you you could release a game with the expectation that it's going to be a finished product, and if you do release and it isn't finished, then I think that's a different thing than putting out a game before it's finished, letting people know that this is not a finished product. Ideally charging them less for it, which I think has kind of become the trend. It's almost like you're sort of subsidizing their playtesting of your game.
Okay, I see.
And then the other important piece of that, why that dog's as big as a cow. As that cow we saw earlier. If you do go down this early access route, being in touch with your player base is important.
Yes.
Because I think that there are the bigger studios that have released games early access. I think as not as a rule, but as a trend, have not lowered the price of their early access games, and have not been as receptive to player reviews of their game. And I think it's just a way to sort of poorly mask.
Like releasing a shitty product.
Releasing a shitty product. Like maybe you know where the game's going to end. So and then you spit it out a couple months early, and then if it doesn't do too well in early access anyway, why even bother pumping any more money in to finish it?
I see.
And I think
it was a failed project kind of approach to
it.
Exactly. No, you made a fucking I think that in a sense, an early access release is a promise. And that's where that good criticism of No Man's Sky and Hello Games comes from, is that they made all these different promises and now have fulfilled them. But I think that you need to produce that fucking game especially if you're releasing it with a relatively high price, and I
dare say you're onto something. Any execs out there from Activision? You out there? You wanna listen to my boy Coyote here?
Please, God, it's a fucking put that shit out and don't. I'm scared because since video games are becoming more and more expensive to produce on the AAA scale, and more video games are falling prey to this. The game costs $10 million to make, so it better sell and double our profits. It better make $20 million. That just leads you more and more to the games are as a service or game subscription that whole path, and it's so shitty. Like paid mods on Skyrim and
just despicable.
Fallout 4, yeah, and now even larger studios are partnering with certain producers or certain companies. Like the immediate example that comes to my mind is Bethesda is now like a Microsoft exclusive company. So not only are they releasing IPs that are exclusive to whatever system Microsoft's fucking whatever terrible underpowered system Microsoft is pumping out to Joe everybody. Not only are they just releasing games for those shitty systems, every single game that Bethesda is going to release is going to be exclusive to Microsoft and the Xbox, whatever new Xbox is out, and to fucking, like Microsoft-based subscription services. And Steam is great in that it provides power to the creators, but what I'm thinking when I hear that deal is that it's just providing more power to the fucking executives. And
yeah,
it's not where power needs to be.
I think no, absolutely.
Power needs to be in the hands of the people that are sculpting, not in the hands of the people that are fucking sponsoring the sculptor. That's where shitty products come from.
Yeah, and that's just we could rub it back to Fallout in terms of anti-capitalism if you'd like.
But, yeah, no kidding.
It's just as soon as these, as someone who is not the designer gets creative control over what's going on, you're gonna end up with a worse product.
Yeah.
I don't expect a bunch of people sitting around in a boardroom with a business degree to know what makes a good video game.
Yeah.
But when it's a board of those people given a list of these are the things that are in vogue right now. We're tapping into the zeitgeist by putting these XYZ things into our game. You better do it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna end up with shit like Fallout 76. Which,
yep. Battle Royale mode, fucking.
Yeah. Did Fallout 76 get a Battle Royale mode?
Yep.
Oh my.
That was I think that was like the first fucking update that Fallout 76 received, which is just a perfect example.
Must have blocked it right out of my memory.
Dude, repress that shit. You don't don't have to remember shit like that. But yeah, just like the whole 76 approach, like they were comfortable with letting the demand for the game get so low that they could sell it for practically zero. They were like straight up zip tying Fallout 76 to other products, like other video games. But they were comfortable with that because it brings people into the Atomic Shop, which is their, their RuneScape membership. Fucking. That's a poor example.
Microtransaction haven.
God bless RuneScape. But yeah, microtransactions. Fucking microtransactions up the ass. And while I don't know if it's like strictly pay to win, it's a lot of these shitty traps that you see where you can buy their little in-game like token that represents real tangible money in increments of 5, but most thing costs $6, shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just, don't support shit like that. I never bought 76 because I feel like I had the wherewithal to be able to see where this shit was going, and I just don't want to support that. I think that games as a service is inherently bad. I think it's inherently evil.
I think so too. It's the fact that you're giving someone an incomplete product that is completable by paying more money. I think that's what you see when you look at things like the Atom Shop.
Yeah, pay to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not like it's not even like they're releasing the game for free. I think if your game has microtransactions, that shit should be free in the first place.
Mm-hmm. You're just proving that you can and have produced content that is accessible to the player.
Absolutely.
So why isn't that in the fucking game?
Do you know anything about Diablo Immortal?
No.
Oh man.
Is that the new? What is that?
It's not Diablo 4,
uh-huh.
and also ain't the remaster for Diablo 2.
Okay.
I have a lot to say about those, but we don't have to in this particular podcast.
How much longer do you want to keep? I'm down to, because so many things just came to mind.
Oh,
I'm
man,
down
same
to keep
here.
on going.
I'm getting some phone calls that I didn't pick up and aren't really being responded to, so I don't think I have a huge amount more.
You want to hit like another 15 or something?
Yeah, I think that's
we'll do one more little wrap, and then we'll wrap it up.
Love it. So, at BlizzCon, I think 2018, there was a cinematic that everyone thought was going to be Diablo 4, the highly awaited sequel to Diablo 3.
Yes.
And instead, they announced Diablo Immortal, and the way that this game differed from the rest of the series is that it was a mobile-only game. When people started, booing the guy who was
oh god,
announcing these things. You know what he said? You know what this fella said? He said, "Don't you guys have phones?" This is a direct quote.
Oh god.
Anyway, I think that the reason that particular switch was attempted was specifically because I think that in mobile games there's the idea of microtransactions for a free game is much more accepted. There is a lot of pushback, I think, for games with microtransactions, and particularly on platform-based games that you have to pay for in the first place.
Yep.
Diablo Immortal was not going to be free, and it was going to be just diffuse with
microtransactions.
This sort of thing. It's dead now. After the reception that game got, none of anything that Blizzard's put out has been about it. It's all been for their console and PC based games and remasters. And so I think it's little bits like that, the failed projects that you can really see as
like hope, or
honestly, that wasn't even where I was originally intending to end up with this, but I think that we as consumers really have the power to say, like, oh well, we're gonna buy this, or we're not gonna buy this. We've already said that we're okay with pre-release and pre-purchase culture. We'll like I said before, you flash up the emblematic image for whatever franchise up on the screen, and folks will pay you $60 before they even get a chance to see any gameplay of the damn thing. And I think that was the first, that was the chink in the armor that really hammered into an opening to our wallets. It's a slippery slope, and you can't let the people who are in games for money's sake get their claws into it.
For sure.
And so, and I think that Diablo Immortal is a really good example of people using their power and their dollars or their specific lack thereov to really tell people something about the content that they want to receive.
Gamers are broke.
Well,
gamers don't have money.
I can only speak for myself. I am about $15,000 in debt right now. Woo! But that's just the way life is for
life gets you sometimes
for someone
graduate.
who was suckered into taking out $25,000 in student loans when he was at the ripe young age of 17.
Oh God, that's too early.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's something that we talked about in another podcast. Actually,
can't drink, can't smoke, show. But you can make the most important financial decision of your 17-year-old life.
We were coming up with the idea that there needs to be like a mandatory 2-year gap between high school and college, and you can really make sure that you want to go to school for this shit before you spend $30,000 on it. But
absolutely.
I guess there are people that know that they want to be something, but as early as fucking 5 years old. So
I sure as hell did.
Me neither. Still don't know. Still haven't been to college.
I wish I had done it more like you.
Oh yeah.
So often I think that, like, there's so much pressure, both like societally, and I think that affects like the personal pressures of like a family. You know, I'm the oldest of 6, and like it was never if you go to college. It was always when
you go to college.
When you end up at that.
Yeah.
At you know, those ivy covered halls. And the idea that if you don't go and get a degree, you won't ever be able to have a job that pays you shit. And I have a degree, and I still have a job that pays me shit. So,
yeah.
What you gonna do?
Yeah.
I wish I had waited until I knew more what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I could have anything other than a liberal arts degree.
Maybe something that had a little bit more horizontal progression, something that had a little bit more maneuverability to it. Or?
Yeah, you know, I don't feel like I can do a whole lot at this point in my life.
Yeah.
There aren't skills that I acquired in my time at a university that I can really apply to my everyday life with much clarity and precision.
Yeah.
I think a part of that's that I didn't declare a major until my junior year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I went and proposed to econ. Isn't that funny?
Really?
I know, I did.
I didn't know that. I thought you... Wow. Huh.
Oh, no. I
Holy shit.
proposed econ major, and I took two quarters of econ classes, and I was like, wow, I've never been so painfully bored in my entire adolescent life.
Fuck.
I would have rather killed myself than continue that degree, so I didn't.
Fucking A.
And it took me until my junior year to settle on a technical theater degree. And turns out, unless you're living in a world that isn't stricken by a pandemic, there aren't really a lot of openings for pointing lights at people that are performing. Or,
Yeah.
And even then.
yeah. Even predating COVID is a hard fucking market to find some commercial success in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh God, the after. I haven't even thought about the aftermath of COVID in the context of theater. That's going to be an interesting fucking space to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working at a children's theater at the moment, and it's very like class oriented, and there's so many things that we have to do differently to account for that.
Yeah.
Even though all of our staff is vaccinated.
Yeah.
It's very non-theatrical.
That's the last thing you want.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the polar opposite of the thing we all got out here to do in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful.
Man, you think you're destined for more time on the stage, or
me?
Yeah.
Me personally, I've played a lot with getting back into that school. I'd really, because I've already talked a whole bunch about how I'm a fucking firefighter on this show.
For sure.
And that means that I have this. I'm looking at least in this echelon of firefighting that I'm in right now. I have all of this time off, quote unquote time off, because if you're not working out like crazy 5 days a week, people fucking berate you on the crew. But I do have a lot of time off, and the benefit of potentially dying that whole season is that you have a lot of time off and you're guaranteed unemployment. And you know, your opinions on unemployment aside, it's really fucking good for me. And I probably don't get paid enough for what I'm doing. You know, I do stand. I don't want to give the proper numbers away, but I do stand to get like a decent chunk of money that can help me pay off any debts that I have or whatever. But it's not enough to justify potentially dying in those 6 months. So I'm fine with taking advantage of the government, given how much it.
No, I think you're well within your rights. Yeah. I think more so. They should really like roll out the red carpet for you. You know, I mean, I feel like the best y'all get is like a big old thank you during fire season.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know, that's real appreciated, and I don't want to get too much into the politics, because I've said the agency that I work for, and I don't want to get fucking slapped around for saying that shit. But because I do tend to release these eventually. Yeah, I would love to do it in the winter. I'd love to take advantage of some of that time and get back into that whole fucking circuit, because that is some of the best community that I've ever found in my life. That school that you're talking about, I've never had a bad time there, not once. Oh, hey man.
Look at that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so fucking much for coming out, dude.
This is the best damn time I've had in a minute.
Yeah, me too, man. I know that, originally it was all about New Vegas, and I'm glad that we got the chance to like kind of break apart the current gaming industry and also community a little bit. That's like the natural flow that I was looking for. And,
it was good.
There were a couple of hiccups because I didn't have quite as many talking points as I wanted, and I felt like I did. I felt like I had more than I anticipated.
I feel like we didn't. I thought we didn't touch on half your talking points because it just kept bouncing from one thing to another so fast.
It was really good. But yeah, man, I fucking hope we have it on for a couple more.
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, folks. We've been doing like a couple of these every week, and we're probably going to release like 5 all at once on a website and on a YouTube account or whatever the fuck. So if you're interested in this, keep tuning in. It's always going to be some new shit.
Stay classy.